Good evening, everybody. Today we discuss about the public budgeting. Already, we done some part of our syllabus, that is the public governance. In that part, we have to already discuss about the public revenue, public expenditures, and last lecture we discuss about that is the public borrowing or public debt. So public it means government borrowing or government debt. Similarly here the public budgeting it means government budgeting, or we can say that is the public authorities. Those are the it may be center authority or state authority or some local authority. So they have to make their budget, and today we try to discuss about the public budgeting. So first we have to discuss about what is the public budgeting. What is meant by the public budgeting? So basically, it is the financial plan that estimates the expenditures and revenue of the state for the next or future financial year. So basically, it is a financial statement or estimate. It estimated that the expenditures as well as the revenue of the state bodies, which may be central government, it may be state government, or maybe some local bodies, for the next year or some future years. So basically, usually 1 year period we are assuming for all the budgeting. So basically, budget it means we are estimation of the public revenue and the public expenditure of the next years. That is known as a public budgeting. So basically, the process reflect the economical, and that process, the public budgeting process, is reflect the economical social policy in the country, because all the economical and as well as the social policy also reflected in a budget of a government budget, and that's why it has some quite important in economical development. So basically, individual also preparing the budget. It may be individuals or a household or some firms, individual firms or some big multinational firms. Also, they have the preparing the budget, and that is known as a private budgeting. So they also prepare the budget for the next year. So they also assuming that how much they are getting a revenue from their various activities, and what are the expenditures of they have to do in the next year. So estimation the value of the revenue and the expenditures of the private individuals or maybe firms is known as a private budgeting. So here we try to understand the difference between the public and the private budgeting, because both are the doing the estimating the future value of the revenue and expenditure, or next year value of the revenue and expenditures. But there are some difference we can see in public and private budgeting. So we have the first difference, that is the purpose of the public budgeting is more comprehensive, that aims to provide the service to the citizens. So basically, when you think about the purpose of the budgeting, so purpose of the public budgeting is the main purpose of the budget to provide the good services or good facility to the citizens. That is the main purpose to preparing the public budget. And on the other side, we have the private aims to focus on the financial center of the company, to focus financial center of a company, or to get a maximum revenue or maximum profit to get to coming year activities. So basically, they have the different purpose. So public purpose, public government budgeting purpose is to provide a good facility to the citizens, good services and the facilities. And similarly, the private aims they are focusing only on the financial center of the company or individuals. Next, we have the economic and the social effect caused by the public budgeting are bigger than the private budgeting. So economical and social effect of the public budgeting is quite bigger or quite higher than the private budgeting, because in public budget it has some large scope. If they are taking any economical or social decisions, it have the impact on the society compared to the private, because the private budgeting have the limited scope compared to the public budgeting. Next, we have the public budgeting affect more different level of the country. So basically, public budgeting affect more different level of the country, because when you think about the Indian budget, it will be published each and every year, and that will be affected not only the particular area of the country, but it affected full area of the country. And in the same budget, they are discussing about the taxation policy, they are discussing about the taxation borrowing policies, or they are discussing about the expenditures where they have to spend some money. So basically, that have the impact or effect of a different level of a country. The controlling or regulatory agencies that monitors to existing the public budgeting are the various. So basically, the controlling and the monitoring agencies of the public budgetings are the various. So there are some regulatory agencies inside, outside our organization also. So they can control and regulate the budget, or try to control and regulate budget. So these are the some difference of the public and private budget. Next slide also we have some difference. That is the first, the stage of the public budgeting preparation is longer. So basically, the public preparation of the public budgeting is quite longer, take a longer times of the period compared to the private budget, because the volume of the revenue and expenditure is quite bigger, and it to allocate it such as available revenue in proper manner. So it needs some time. Okay, compared to the private budget, because private budget have limited revenue and the limited expenditure sources are there. So they don't need that much time to prepare the budget compared to the public budget. So basically, in a preparing the public budget, it takes some more time compared to the preparing private budget. So these are some different of a public and the private budget, also different from government and the private budget also. So now we have to think about the public revenues. So there are basically in budget, government budget or public budget, two main factors are there. So first we have the revenues, public revenues, and the public expenditures. So here already we discussed about that part in some previous lectures, but now we have to overlook only. So the public revenue, they have the different sources of the revenues. So government can get the revenue in through the various different sources. So service fees and the charges. Through the service fee and the charges, they can get a revenue. For example, electricity fees or traffic charges or there. So taxes. So there are various types of the taxes that will be direct tax, indirect tax, and through direct and indirect tax, government can collect some revenue. Other ways, they have the public debt. So public debt, it means sometimes government, if they need quite a surplus amount of the money, so they have the way to get the money from the borrowing sources. So they can borrow from the internal sources, that is known as a domestic borrowing, or maybe they can borrow from the external sources known as external borrowing or foreign borrowing. So basically, government can get the borrowing or get the debt. Through that debt, they also can collect the revenue. Next, we have the government borrowing money from the investors. So that government will by issue the bonds. So government can issue the bonds. It may be small short-term bonds or long-term bonds are there to pay a money back with the interest, and investors can be investors as well as institutions, basically financial institutions. They can purchase such a bonds for the through that the government can get some money that is known as internal borrowing. So external borrowing, it means, say, for example, the currency borrowing from the other countries. So government can get the borrowing or get the fund or get the financial support from the outside of country in terms of the foreign currency. It may be there will be some developed country or some international organization or some others individual peoples also can provide or bankers, they can provide some fund, and that is known as external borrowing. So other countries' properties and asset also through that. So basically, these are the quite various sources government have to raise their revenue. So they can get the revenue from service fees and the charges. They can get the revenue from the taxes, it may be direct and indirect taxes. They can get the revenue from the internal as well as the external debt and some other government asset or property. Through that also the government can get the revenue. Now afterwards, we have to think about the government expenditures. So basically, government doing the two important function. First is the collecting the revenue, and afterwards, while the collecting revenue, they have to spend that revenue for the welfare of the society. So that spending of the revenue is known as a public expenditure. So basically, the different example of the public expenditure we have. So first, the spending on a country's services and program offered by the government organization. So government can spending on continuous services and program which is offered by the organization, for example education, defense, health, police services, or judicial services. So these continuous program services are there, and government have to spend too much amount on particular services. But here health service also we can include in that services also. Next, we are depending on the public personal salaries and the wages. So government needs some administrative staffs, and there are many people are working in the government in administration. So these people are getting some salaries, or they have to get some salaries and wages, and that to providing to spend to giving the salaries to their employees. The government have to spend some amount to spending on the public personal salaries or wages, or sometimes the pension also. It also carries some fund. It also carries some quite higher amount of the government expenditures, and the government can spending the amount to giving the salaries and wages and the pensions of their employees. So that is another main source of the government spending. Next, we have the government spending on the public capital project and investment. So government, if the remaining amount, if the government has a surplus, so they can spend their amount on the capital project or the investment. For example, to building a dam or providing the canal facility to irrigation facility to the farmer, or build a road or improve the transportations. So such a project that is known as a capital or investment. So it will be created able to create some investment or capital also. So basically, government can spending some amount on capital project to develop. That spending is known as a development expenditure also. So basically, other also the government can spending on office need offer demands. So there are some basic office needs is there. So again, there may be some office demands is there. So providing this such a demand, they have to spend some amount of their revenue. Next, they have the largest spending in unusual crises such as natural disasters, or sometimes war, or sometimes other crises. The crisis may be a man-made crisis, or maybe it will be natural crisis. That time also government have to spend some amount, and government can spend such amount. So basically, government are spending in a various way. They can spend their revenue in various way, and basically main motive behind the spending to give welfare, or to create the welfare of the society, or to provide the good services of the citizen, national citizen. So basically in government budgeting, we have the government revenue, one column is government revenue, another we have the government expenditure or public expenditure. So public revenue and public expenditure are two columns are there. So now we have to think about the kinds of the budget or types of the budget. There are various types of the budgets are there. First, we have a traditional budget. Second, we have the performance budget. Third one, program budget. Fourth, that is a zero-based budget. And fifth, new performance budget. So these are the some types, or we can say that the types of the budget. So when we go one by one, so first we have the traditional budget. So it is also called a line item budget. So basically, expenditures and the money allocated are not on. Basically, expenditure and the money allocated are made on an administrative. So the expenditure and allocation of the expenditures is fixed by the administrative department base, and department base is not on the base of the department really want to achieve. So basically, in such a budget, the expenditures and money is allocated on an administrative department basis. Here they are not considered about the a particular department what they really want to achieve. So basically, money allocation for the defense department, health department, or education department, also etc. So basically, the money can be allocated through the various department, and that will be allocation usually take place through the an administrative department basis. It not based on the what the department really want to achieve. So there are various departments. We know that is there are some defense ministries there, agriculture ministry there, rural development ministry, industrial ministry there, foreign affairs ministries, or some other ministries also there. So department wise, the money can be allocated, and such a budget is known as a traditional budget. This kind of the most used in many developing countries. So particularly these types of the budget, most of the developing countries are using the traditional budget. So where the money can allocate it according to the available resources and according to the department. So that is a one part, one types of the budget that is known as a traditional budget. Next, we have the performance budget. So basically, the performance budget, the expenditures and the money allocation would be determined based on how activity or project would be performed. So basically, the allocation of the money or the resources or expenditure is based on the performance of the project or the activities, and that such a budget is known as a performance budget. Because in such a budget, the money can be allocated or money can be distributed to according to the performance of the activity or the project of the government activity or the government project. It perform the budget. Information should be organized in terms of the activities, and for the performing the budget, information should be organized in terms of activities, and the activities should be measures, or it will be measured. Cost should be identified for these activities, and efficiency performance these activities should be evaluated. So for the preparing the budget, there are some conditions we have to need it. To first, that is a performance budget, the information should be organized in proper manners. Next, that there will be the activity should be measures. The activity will be measures, or it quite be identified through the activities or efficiency, or we are able to measure the efficiency. So efficiency performing these activities should be, and we are able to evaluate the efficiency of the particular activities. So such a budget is known as a performance budget. In short, we can say in performance budget, the allocation of the money or allocation of the expenditures are based on the performance of the particular project or performance of the particular, we can say that is the activities, government activities. That is the second types of the budget is known as a performance budget. Now we have to move, that is the third type. It's a program budget. So the major idea of this budget, how to specific program would achieve the public objective regardless of what agency would prefer this program. So basically, the main objective behind the program budget, how the specific program would achieve the public objective. So there will be some public objective, and government can prepare the budget in such a manner where a particular program is able to achieve the objectives which they are fixing. So basically, the allocation of the resources or allocation of the money or expenditure allocation is based on the program achievement or objective of the program achievement. So basically, the major idea of this budget, the specific program would be achieved. The public objective regardless, an agency would perform the program. So here we are not consider the agency, but the project and the activities are the concept. So basically, that budget is a program based. So if the while preparing the budget, if the particular programs or government activities are concerned and the government try to prepare the budget, such a budget is known as a program budget. Now we have another, that's the new performance budget. So focusing on a result or outcome of agency. So basically this budget is focusing of result of the project or outcome of the government expenditures, and the idea of the new performance budgeting is that the social goals, the outcomes or result is what matters, the government performance, not the direct output or activities of the agency. So basically, the idea behind of the new performance budget is that social goals and outcomes or the result is what matter government performance, not the direct output or activities in the agencies. So basically, new performance budget test an agency's result. So while preparing the new performer budget, so they can test new agencies result. If the agency running some programs or the agency is some government authorities or various department, so they also can be an agency. So if they are running some particular program, how was the result of that program, and based on that the result they can allocate it the fund which they have. So basically that known as a new performance budget. Is Afterwards we have that is the zero based budget. So that is the fifth kinds of the budget. Every agency would develop the budget every year without looking at the previous budgets. So basically, every agency or every department prepare their budget every year, but without looking at the previous year's budget. So they are not considering the previous year's budget. Newly, they can make their own budget. So each and every department can making their own budget or own new budget. They are not considering any values which in the previous budget. So basically, every year budget would start from the beginning. So every year department or the budget will be start from the evening and from the zero base. So from the zero base, and that's why it's called as a zero based budget. So estimating a new spending and new revenue and a new program. So each and every year, government department or various department, they have to find out new spending, new revenue, and new program also. So basically, the effect from the past year will not be considered at the current year budget. So basically, the effect of the past year, of the budgeting effect of the past year, it will be not considered in a current or running year budget. So basically, such a budget is known as a zero-based budget. So this budget also some government, maybe state or central government, can use such types of the budget. Next, yeah. So that is these are the kinds of the budget. So basically five kinds of the budget, and through that we have some various kinds of the budget. Now we have to think about the stages of the budget preparation. So there are various stages of the budget preparation, because the preparing the budget is a quite we can say difficult task, or it can take some longer time, because the government budget is have the larger scope. It have the way impact on each and every factors and the societies individuals also. So basically we have to think about the stages of the budget preparation, or we have to think about or discuss about the stages of the government budgeting stages are there. So first stage we have the preparation stage, second we have the approval stage, and third one we have the executive stage, and fourth that is the oversight stage. Final account stage is the fifth. So there are fifth stage where the budget have to go through out, and it will become a union budget or the government budget. Now we have to think about the first stage of the budget preparation, that is known as the preparation. So or preparation stage. So basically, in preparation stage is the primary and the first stage in the preparation of the budgeting. So basically, what we have to do, evaluation of the economical situation and estimation of the public revenue. So each and every government can evaluate the last year economic situation of particular the department and estimated the public revenue. So therefore, before the budget publish the budget, the government can publish their economic survey of a country or of a state. So before in the budget or before one day of a budget, publication of budget in a assembly, government can publish the economical survey of a country or of a state in a particular year. So it will be showing that, or it will be explaining that the economical situation, or it will be quite easy to estimate the public revenue. So that is the first stage while the preparation of the budget, to evaluate the economical situation department wise as well as the overall country. Next, that is the estimating the public revenue, or estimating the how the public revenue from the different sources, because we know that there are various sources government get available, and government get this revenue from such sources. Next, that is issuing the document for budget preparation to ministers and others government agencies, done by the finance minister. So another stage, second stage in the first stage, that is issuing the documents of the budget preparation to the various ministries and the various government agencies by the finance minister. Finance ministry, because the preparation budget is a task of the finance ministry, and that's why they need the budget of the each and every department or their revenue sources of from each and every department. So they can issue the documents where to various department of a government department. So through that document they can get the budget of the various department. So basically issuing the document of the budget preparation to the minister, there's another step in the preparation stage. Next, to start making the budget in each ministry. To start making the budget for each ministry, because we know that we have the different ministry and there are various ministry there when we think about the central government, or we think about the state, or sometimes local also. So basically the third stage in the first third point in the first stage, they can start the making of the budget from the each ministry. A study and evaluating the ministry's budget by the finance minister. So afterwards, finance minister can study as well as evaluating the of the ministry budget one by one by the finance ministers. Okay, and that is the first stage of the preparation of the budget. Afterwards, we have the second stage, that is the approval. So basically, government expenditures or budget is a government activities, and it need approval. So basically, after studying the public budget and approved by the finance minister, after studying the public budget or after studying the various department budget, the budget can be approved by the finance minister. Okay, and the finance minister will present or propose the public budget to the legislative body or legislative assembly, to give the approval. So basically, first, finance minister study the various department budget and approve the all the department budget. Afterwards, he present the budget in a legislative body when if the budget is a central budget that will be published in central assembly, or if it's related to this particular state, it will be presented in the state assembly, and through that the finance minister try to get the approval of a legislative body. So basically, they have to get the approval from the finance minister, and it will be approved from the legislative body also. So that is the approval stage in the second stage. Third, we have the executive stage. So basically, finance minister will spend the public budget to each ministry or governmental agency attached with some instruction. So basically, finance minister will send the budget of each ministry or the government organization with the some instruction, and each agency will start implication its budget items and determined before. So basically, the those budgets are the session department wise. The finance minister can send them the budget or agency attached to some instruction will be attached, and each agency will start the implication of the budget. So that is the implication of the budget. Is another stage that is the executive of the stage, and central as well as state bodies can implicate the budgetary provisions. Next, we have the oversight stage. So oversight stage, that is the fourth basically stage. Basically, the legislative authority would make sure if the executive agencies would perform the budget as determined, and the finance department would make sure there is any diversion or spending over any matters. So basically, there are internal and external outside. Internal outside oversight do not done by the some administrative agency, and external outside done by the respectively finance minister. So there is administrative agencies as well as the respective finance ministry take care about the basically the override of the state budget. So that is a fourth preparation stage of the budgeting. Next, we have the final account and the statement. So that is the final stage of the budgeting or government budgeting. Each agency or ministry must take the final statement. So each and every ministry have to take a final statement, and the ministry will make the collect the required data about the result through the previous years and send to the finance ministry. So basically, each agencies or each department or each ministry must have to take a final statement from the finance minister. And similarly, the ministry will make collect the required data or adequate data about its result through the previous years and send the finance minister. So to get the result of the previous years, to collect the result of the previous years are particular regarding their particular project or some activities, and they have to send this result to the finance minister. So and this is a very important to show the real revenue and expenditures from the various years. So basically, in a budget, in government budget, it will be showing that the real revenue or the revenue of the government as well as the government expenditure in the through coming years or in the future years. So that is known as a government budget. So basically, these are the 5 stages which is required for the preparing the government budgeting, because preparing the budgeting is take too much time and take quite more labor powers also, and it continues that process of the preparation of the budgeting and the presenting the budget in assembly. That is a continuous process. and it will be continuously running towards forward. So basically, the budget is that these are the some stages for the preparation of the budget. So while we go in a further slide, where we have to think about our the budget multiples. So basically, balanced budget multipliers. So budget can be classified according to their expenditure and the revenue, or volume of the expenditure and the revenue. So basically, budget can classify like a balanced budget in balanced budget. So balanced budget, it means where the public revenue and public expenditure is equal. But in balanced budget, it means there will be sometime the public expenditure is greater than public revenue, or sometime public revenue is greater than public expenditure. When we have the such situation like the public expenditure is greater than public revenue, that time government have to facing deficit budgeting, or government have to have a deficit financing or deficit budget. And in other opposite situation where government income is quite greater than government expenditure, that time government have the surplus in their activities. So that is known as a surplus budget. So basically, the budget have three main types. That is the first deficit finance or deficit budgeting. Second is the balanced budgeting, and third one is a surplus budgeting. So now, when you think about the balanced budget and multipliers, so that is a quite a simple concept. It's known as a balanced budget multiplier. So multiplier, it means the that how the impact the other variables have the quite greater impact on the on other variables. So basically, a balanced budget multiplier quantify the change in a total output. In a metric considers the equal change in the government spending and the taxation. In economic multiple, denotes the impact of the change in one economic variables on others. So balanced budget, it means to consider the equal changes in the government spending and government taxation. So there will be equal changes we have. So it means if the government revenue increased by the 10%, government expenditure also increased by 10%. So there will be such a budget is known as the balanced budget, and economic multiplier denote the impact of the change in the economic overall others. So we have one figure is there in our slide. So basically, where we have on y-axis we measure the budget, like maybe surplus or the deficit or the balance, and another way we have the national income, that is the we are measured in our x-axis. So basically during the we have the one line, that is the one line is the showing the expenditure line, and other line is the quite the revenue line. So in an initial stage where the expenditures is quite greater than the revenue. So if the expenditure is greater than revenue, so that time government have the deficit. And similarly, in other side, in a blue line, in the blue portion of the diagram, where we have the expenditure is the smaller the revenue, and that's why they can get the surplus, known as surplus budgeting. So budget, so many times the government have the budget. It may be deficit budget, it may be surplus budget. And during the deficit budget, government try to spend more to controlling the inflation. And surplus budget, government during the surplus budget, economic growth is quite higher, so government try to reduce their spending. So that is known as a balanced budget multiple. So basically, the balanced budget multiplier is taken as one. This is implies the increase in production of the targeted by the reduce the taxation in a neutralize the metric of the combination of the tax multiplier of the expenditure multiplier. So the balanced budget multiplier is taken as the one. This implies that increase in the production, it will be how the relation to reducing the taxation or reducing the tax rate, because the reduction the tax rate is quite motivated to the people also to produce more goods and commodity. Afterwards, we have the already we discussed about these types of the budget according to their expenditures. So basically, that they have the balanced budget. Another is the balanced budget means where the government expenditure and government revenue are the same. In such a situation, we can say that the budget will be balanced. But most of the time, that is the ideal budget. But most of the time, it not happen. The budget, we are not getting budget in the balance. There will be imbalanced budget. So imbalance, it may be deficit or it may be surplus. So in a budget deficit, so it means if the government expenditure is the higher, more greater than the government revenue, that time that budget is known as the government budget deficit budget. So to cover the deficit, government can use the various ways to covering such a deficit. So maybe they can get more money from the peoples in terms of the borrowing. Maybe they can try to suggest the government to print more currency, or get some external help. So through that, they try to cover the deficit in their economy. So that is the second, that is budget in a deficit. And third one is known as a budget in a surplus, means where we have the income is quite greater than the public expenditures, and in the activities government can get some surplus. So surplus budget also have some impact on the economy, because if we have the surplus budget continuously, it will be cost to increasing the general price level. Because the surplus budget, it will increase the money, it will increase the money income of the society. If the money income of society increasing, they can demand at various goods and commodity. It will be raised in the price level, or commodity price will be raised continuously. It have the impact on general price level also. So general price will also increase. So basically, so deficit budget also bad, and surplus also they have some limitation. So with each and every country or each and every state, they try to build a budget that is the balanced budget. But after Keynesian thought 1963, the Keynes allows the government to intervene in the market, or government have to do an important role in the market mechanism. So that's why they can support, that is a deficit finance. So government have to spend too much amount on the welfare of the society, or to provide a loan, or provide the consumption of the various goods and services to the society. So government have to spend too much amount, and for the developing nation, government have to adopt the deficit financing, because the revenue sources are limited. It's not possible to cover the all increasing the expenditure through the limited sources. So that time government can choose the budget deficit financing or deficit budget. Next, we have the formula of the balanced budget multipliers. So when we think about the balanced budget multipliers, so there is a simple formula is there. So basically, when we have the closed economy means there is no free trade between the different countries. So in such a situation, the equation will be like this. So y is equal to c plus I plus g. So here y, it means the national income. C plus consumption, expenditure on the consumption, I plus expenditure on the investment, and G plus the government expenditures. If we are combine all these three variables, we are able to get the income of a country. if the closed economy is there, if we are open the economy, so automatically it will, here we have to include the external sectors, that is import or export. So we have to make a plus, export plus. In this same formula, we can make a formula for the open economy like y plus c plus I plus g plus ex, that's the export, minus and import. So through that, through this also we are able to provide some formula. So then balance multiplier calculated the multiplying the simple expenditures. So multiplying by the simple tax tax multipliers. So here tax multiplier is equal to minus 1 MPC. So MP, what is the MPC? The marginal propensity to consume. Because we know that as individuals, if they get income, so they are not spending whole income on their consumption. They can divide their income in a mean two spending. First, they can consume some. They can spend their income, some part of the income on the consumption. The remaining part they can put as a saving. So basically, the marginal propensity to consume is less than one in short term, because if we have the one, it means the government, it means the individual income increases. They are also increasing their consumption in a proper same proportion, but in reality, we are not see that the consumer income increased by 50%. So it means he also increased their income consumption by 50%. So basically, because some part of the income he tried to save, and therefore, marginal propensity to consume is less than one. So we have the one minus marginal propensity to consume divided by marginal propensity to save. And when we get the ratio of these two value, marginal propensity to save, that is the showing that the amount of the saving, marginal amount of the saving, and through that. The ratio of the marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save is known as a tax multiplier. So tax multiplier also working as a budget multiplier. Afterwards, we have that is the further calculation. So MPSC, we can use the formula for MPS, that is marginal propensity to consume. So basically, how we can get the marginal propensity to consume? So we can get the marginal propensity to consume like the consumption divided by disposable income. Disposable income means those income is available for the spending. So after the paying the tax to the government, remaining amount of the income is known as a disposable income. So basically, the ratio of the consumption and the disposable income is known as a marginal propensity to consume. Afterwards, we have the Keynesian multiplier, was developed using the concept of the change and aggregate demand. So basically, Keynesian follow the concept that is aggregate demand, and he's saying that aggregate demand means it means the demand which is backed by the money power, which is backed by the economic power. And aggregate demand, it means the total demand of a country. Okay, it is the state that the economic output is a multiplier of the increase or decrease of spending. So, if the government increase or decrease the spending, it have the multiple effect on the economic output. If the financial multiple is the greater than one, it means $1 increase spending will be increased total output more than one. So basically, if the financial multiplier is greater than one, if then we have the multiple which is greater than one, it's showing that if the government increase the spending of his spending in $1, it will be the output will be increased more than $1. So basically, the multiplier showing how the government change its activities, but these budgetary activities, how it will be impact on the output. So here we have the balanced budget multiplier diagram is there, and how it will change, it is showing there. So in above diagram show that the small increase in a government expenditure. So here we have the small increase in government expenditure. This government expenditures can measure in over access. It result to large increase in national income. So national income is measured in a over access, OX access. So basically, see here, so C1 and C2 from the consumption function, one to the consumption function. So it's a C and C1. C1 and C2 is a consumption function showing that, and the further this triggers in the increase, the output will be increased by y1 to y2. This occurs because of the national income is reflected of the expenditures in an economy. So it will be happen because of the national income is increased because the government increase its income, government increase its expenditure in a market, and the government increase expenditure means government expenditure can become a personal society's income, and that's why it will have the increase in the production or increase in the output. Thus, the C stand for the consumption and S stand for the saving. So basically, C and S in the saving, and if the consumption increase, automatically saving will be reducing. So it's showing that basically, if the government increases small amount of the expenditures, it have the quite uh, good effect, or output can increase more than expenditure increased by the government. It's known as a balanced budget multiplier. Now we have to think about the some importance of the balanced budget multiplier. What are the importance of the balanced budget multiplier? So there are various importance of the balanced budget multipliers. First, we have the importance like uh, a balanced budget can be critical for the government entry for the two reason. So balanced budget can be criticized or critical in a two-way entry of the two-way or two reasons is there. So first, it may be need to uh, help to self-sufficient or debt securities to cover. So for the balanced budget, why it will be quite important because it need to help for the self-sufficient, and it will be help to debt recovery or debt cover or the debt securities to cover the deficit. So it will be quite helpful to cover the deficit if the balanced budget is there. And second, we have the taxpayers will be burdened with the higher taxes cover in the deficit in the future. So its second condition is there. It will have the impact on taxpayer where will be burden. They can have the burden about the higher tax rate to cover the deficit in the future. So if the country have the continuous deficit and they are not consider about the covering the such a deficit, so basically that deficit burden will be increased on the taxpayer, and the government after after some time or in future, government can raise the tax rate, the government can raise the revenue for the taxation to cover the deficit. So that is the one issue regarding the deficit finance. So that's why government have to try to get it the balanced budget or balanced budgeting is preferred by the government. Next, we are the buying the balance. Balancing the budget, the government save the interest by the avoiding the large loans from the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank. So while the basically in a balanced budget, government can avoid the fund or government avoid such a fund or large fund, basically large loan. It's an external loan from the international organization. It may be IMF, that is a monetary fund, international monetary fund, or it may be World Bank or some Asian Development Bank or BRICS. So the government can avoid to large loans from the international organization or international country through the balanced budget. Okay, if they have the balanced budget, it means they don't no need to get the extra or surplus amount from outsiders. But if the government have the continuous deficit budgeting and they have to cover such a deficit, that time they can sometimes they defend or get a loan, large amount of the loan from the foreigners or the foreign organization. So that has also impact on on a government activities, also government independence also. So basically, balanced budget can avoid such a problem, or because of the balanced budget, such problem will be not created, or government no need to take a large amount debt from the international organization. Next, we have the balance concept. Uh, Adequate the maintenance of the budget surplus during the economic growth. So balance concept adequates the maintenance of the budget surplus during the economic growth. So it will be balanced budget can be adequate the maintenance of the surplus economic during the economic growth. So in an economic growth, the budget can be a surplus budget, because in a growth automatically the people's income are increasing, national income increasing. It means the people's income increasing, they can get the income through the various sources. So it means government the revenue the also increasing, and government it will be helped to be a balanced budget of a government, and that balanced budget or surplus budget, not a balanced budget but surplus budget, can use for the economic development, or the surplus amount of the budget can be used for the development of economic country, or create some wealth in a country. Next, we have the balanced budget. Such a government wealth better control during the financial crisis. Through the balanced budget, government able to quite better control through the financial crisis. Because when we see the financial crisis continuously happen, and the government want to control such a financial crisis, so basically the government with better control during the balanced budget is quite easy or quite help to control such a financial crisis in an economy. Next, we have the during the crisis, the budget deficit can be beneficial, excess the spending and boost economic activities. So these are some importance of the balanced budget. But sometimes when we have the crisis situation, when we have the depression in the economy, that time the deficit finance can be beneficial for the society, or it can be beneficial for the economic or market also. So during the depression or during the crisis, it may be economical crisis or some other crisis, so that time government have to take initiative. Government have to spend too much amount, it may be more than their expenditure, so that the government are getting the deficit. But that such a deficit is quite a big beneficial in according to such a deficit. That the activities, the excess spending can boost the economic activities in the market economic activities, and it will be quite better situation in the economy. So basically, so when we have the balanced budget is also important, but the deficit finance also quite important when we have some crisis, as well as some depression situation is there. Similarly, we have if the surplus budget, it means that it also creates some problem. If the country gets surplus budget continuously, it will be cost to increasing the money, increasing the price level, or decrease the money value. It have also problem. So basically, each and every government try to get the balanced budget, or try to get the balanced budget through their income and expenditure, and this budget have some several impact on the society. So now today we try to now we finish our public budget, the topic of the public budgeting. So now we are in a stage where we have to conclude our lecture. What we do in today's lectures. So basically, today's lecture is based on the public budgeting, and where we try to understand the meaning of the public budget, what is meant by public budgeting, or what is meant by government budgeting. Similarly, we try to discuss about the difference between the public and the private budget, because the public and private, they both are preparing their budget, but both have this different purpose, different aims, or different control authority also. So we try to understand the differences between the public and the private budgeting. Afterwards, we have this main source in a budget. So basically, there is a revenue, public revenue, tools or variables, and another is the public expenditure. So public revenue is when government can get the revenue from the various sources. The sources, it may be taxation, it may be fees, or it may be some government borrowing or some external borrowing. Through that, government can get the fund. Similarly, there are expenditures, so government can spend such a fund in various expenditures functions of the government. Afterwards, we have some kinds of the public budgeting. So basically, there are various kinds of the public budgeting we see. First, we have the traditional budget. Second, we have the performance budget. Third one, we have the program budget. Fourth, that is the zero-based budget. And fifth is known as a new performance budget. So these are some types, or this is known as the kinds of the budget. Afterwards, we have the details explanation about the kinds of the budget, traditional budget or the performance budget, as well as some program budget, new program budget, and zero-based budget. Next thing we try to discuss in today's lecture, that is the stages of the budget preparation, because the preparation of the budget is a quite bigger task. It needs lots of the time as well as the labors also, and there are some stages in the preparation of the government budget. So first stage, we have some stages, like we have the first stage, that is the preparation stage, is the first stage. Second is the approval stage. Third one is the executive stage, and fourth we have the oversight stage, and fifth, that is the final account or the statement stage. And these are the 5 stages. Through that stages, budget can be prepared. So basically, these are the known as the stages of the budget preparation. Next, we have the that will be details of these stages, where we already see how the details of the stages of the preparation budget. Now here we try to understand the balanced budget multipliers. So balanced budget multiplier. So first we have to understand the balanced budget. Balanced budget means the output, the government revenue and the government expenditures are the same, and that is known as a balanced budget. And basically, it's showing that in a balanced budget, if the government increase the expenditures, the output or national income will be increased, but it will increase more than government expenditure. It means known as a balanced budget multipliers. So government country's income is a change. It's a change quite larger proportion than the change in the government expenditures. So it's shown by through that diagram also, and we have some diagram where we try to show the deficit finance and surplus finance. So basically, we have the deficit finance, surplus finance, and the deficit budget, surplus budget, and the balanced budget. These are the three types of the budget. Afterwards, we try to explain the formula of the multiple budget, balanced budget formula, where we consider the economy is a closed economy, and the formula will be become like a y is equal to c plus I plus g. So c is the consumption, I is investment, and g is the government expenditures. So tax multiplier. So we have a tax multiple like a 1 minus MPC, marginal propensity to consume, and divided by marginal propensity to saving. So through that we are able to get the multiplier, that is a budget multiplier or financial multiplier. So fixed multiplier, it means if the government increase some amount of the expenditures or spending, the output is also increased, but it will increase more than government spending or government expenditure. It's known as a financial multiplier, or it's known as a balanced budget multiplier. So here we try to show how the government spending change, and it will be change in increase income of the national income. And last one, we have the importance of the balanced budget multipliers. So where we try to explain the importance of balanced budget multipliers, and similarly we try to explain the deficit finance, the importance of deficit financing, the importance of the sub surplus budget or deficit budget also. So up to here we cover the our point, that is the public budget. So thanks to everyone for the attending lectures. So thank you.